It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Being a coach's son.
Jackson, of course, they keep retooling. One stone to face, a hit by pitch. Oh my goodness. Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, baseball talk powered by Game 7 Baseball, Game7Baseball.com. We got season right around the corner. Oh my goodness. We got high school baseball tryouts next week. We got Game 7's opening weekend coming third week in March. We're this close. And as always, we got the guru, Mr. Kevin Moulder, Prep Baseball. Kevin, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing wonderful. We got the weather starting to turn. We can start to think about baseball outside with the high school guys. And, puts you in a good mindset, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can walk outside without a jacket. Bonus.
Yes.
So make sure you check out Game7Baseball.com. If you haven't finished up your schedule, we got some great stuff still happening. We got 7 terms next couple weeks. We're going to have Dave Pinning on. We're going to open up the season talking about what's going on around Game 7 baseball. So, hey, we look forward to seeing you out at the ballpark. We're going to be in Edwardsville. We're going to be at Warrenton. We're going to be at BMAC this year. So a lot of different places. We're going to have some fun. So make sure Game7Baseball.com. And got to take care of all my folks here. Kevin Moulder joining us on the Prime Sports Midwest call link. Make sure you check out Prime Sports Midwest. 2 locations, Fenton and St. Peter's. Baseball gear. If you haven't got it yet, that's the place to go. Prime Sports Midwest. Kevin, we had a fun Sunday. A lot of good talent we saw out there this weekend.
Oh, yes. Saturday. Yeah, the preseason All-State event.
Saturday. Sorry, my fault.
At the Sports Barn.
Forgive me. I don't know what day it is, Bo.
Hey, you're going to get a pass from me because I'm kind of living that world myself right now. It's a sprint to the finish. The high school guys are in dead week this week with tryouts starting next Monday. We're wrapping up kind of the event season. We had our winter Super Bowl, if you will, the preseason All-State, and boy, it didn't disappoint. We had a lot of good players, about 100 of the state's top players out at the Sports Barn, and it went great.
It did. We're going to be pumping out some interviews that we did with a lot of these kids coming up this week on our X page, so be looking forward to that. We're finishing up doing a little editing in that respect. Had some good conversations, some kids that we hadn't met before from different parts of the state that we're looking forward to seeing this year. So I'm excited about it, man. I really am. The thing we're going to start with, though, we want to look at this one. To me, was a bit surprising, because you go out there, you see a lot of sophomores, juniors. There was a lot of freshmen at this one. So that tells me this freshman class is pretty good, because this particular All-State is an invite. So you're looking at kids across the board here. You've got a lot of freshmen here that could make some impact for their teams this year.
This is a strong freshman class. We've talked about this. This class won the Junior Future Games, which is an extremely challenging event to win, and so that tells you that there's a lot of talent here, and even beyond that roster that we brought down there, it is starting to show that this is going to be one of the stronger classes. And I'm not just saying that. Like I firmly believe this class stacks up favorably to some of the other classes that we've seen. Appears to be extremely talented, and as we go over the next 2 years or so, the depth of the class will start to reveal itself. You see some of the higher end guys. things change a lot. Anytime we're talking about freshmen, I think it's important to realize, there are some very good players that won't get mentioned, that just aren't there physically at this time. You know that nature is going to take its place. Kids are going to add, sometimes as much as 35, 40 pounds over the course of even more than that, honestly, over the course of 4 years. Kids will grow, as much as 6 or 7 inches at times. So it's very commonplace to see a kid throw 76 as a freshman, and then throw 82 the next year, and then 86, and then all of a sudden his senior year he's 91. But there are some kids that bloom earlier, and or just a little bit ahead, and they can open up your eyes a little bit, and certainly we've started to see that out of this freshman class.
Absolutely. And to your point, the junior class that we saw there, even a lot of the sophomores, man, there were some big kids out there. My goodness.
Yeah, it's not quite how I remember high school, is it? I mean,
I honestly, and we're getting ready to talk about this freshman class. I went up and introduced myself to Nolan Mullering and John Calcaterra, and I'm looking up at both of these kids, man, and they're freshmen.
yes, there's some big boys.
So, where are we going to start here with this freshman class?
Yeah, we'll take a quick look at some of these hitters. And the other thing that I want to say about the freshman class that makes it extremely hard, really, we only see our freshmen at events. We do see a handful of them make the varsity team, but it's so dependent on what school they're going to. We've had this talk before. Sometimes at a smaller school, you'll see more young guys because there's not as many kids, and a freshman might have a better chance to make a roster. If you're a freshman on one of these top teams in the state, one of these top 10 teams that we'll come out with rankings over the next couple of weeks, it makes it a lot different. So we don't look at, hey, this kid's on the varsity team, this kid's not on the varsity team. I don't hold that when we're evaluating these kids at all. If anything, it's just a bonus. If a kid's on the varsity, you get to see him. And if a kid hits, 175 as a freshman, I don't look at that as a strike against him. I view it as a bonus. It's like, hey, this kid was good enough to make his varsity team. And however it works out is just experience gained, is the way I view it.
Yeah.
But with that being said, let's jump into it. A couple of the standouts and, kids I'm pretty familiar with at this time with the Future Games experience. Brady Rallo is a name that definitely is going to be need to know moving forward. Brady's left-handed hitting outfielder, can really swing the bat. The bat's his calling card. 101 plus on the exit velo, Brian, as a freshman. That is if that was a senior, that would be really good. Even college guys like that, that's good. So ball jumps off the bat. He can hit. It's not just a strong guy that can, put on a show during BP. It translates to the games. He was one of our top players down at the Junior Future Games offensively. Competitive kid, comes from a baseball family. He's over at CBC High School. So there's a little bit of tradition there with him. That will be one to keep an eye on moving forward. It'll be interesting. He might challenge for some varsity time or maybe a sophomore team. Obviously, CBC, that's at the top of the heap. They're playing in one of the most competitive high school conferences. So that one will be interesting. But over the next 2 or 3 years, expect to see his name quite a bit over there at CBC.
One of the stats that jumps off the page to me with him is the sweet spot and line drive percentage was both at 62%, Kevin.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to my game gameplay event. You do see some kids, and I'll see some crazy numbers sometimes, but then it doesn't necessarily translate over to the game. And so you kind of touched on some of the reasons why he's successful there. Another big physical guy that's going to be need to know here is John Caltatera, freshman over at Lindbergh. John's a big guy. He's 6'4". Let's see, I have it right here.
You're correct.
6'4". Okay, yeah. John's a two-way guy. Third base pitcher. I had him a week or so ago over at the Recruit Scout Day for pitching as well, where he topped out at 86 as a freshman, which is pretty wild. It'll be interesting, to see where he ends up with on the Lindbergh roster. With the two-way thing, especially the pitching, if he's already throwing mid-80s, that he is going to be a legitimate two-way guy to watch. And there's a guy that's hanging out in the mid-90s, during BP with his exit velos. Obviously has plenty of arm from across the diamond at third base. Maybe plays a little first base some days after pitching, but pretty good athlete too for a big guy. But his calling card is the juice in the bat. Like, he has power potential, current power, and more obviously potential there in the years to come there.
On the fielding side, when you're talking, like you said, the infield velo, 82, where does that sit when you're talking about an infield arm? 82, that's pretty good, isn't it? Even for a freshman?
It's phenomenal for a freshman. That would be plus for a freshman. We just talked about his fastball being up to 86 already. That is elite. Certainly for the states, are there kids across the country that might throw a little harder as a freshman? Sure, but there aren't many. John's a future mid 90s guy potentially if things stay on track. You never know, but you get enough kids that look like that, throw like that now. Those are what those mid 90s arms look like when they're freshmen.
Gotcha. Who's next here?
We'll touch on Ryan Caffey, catcher. He was the starting catcher on the Junior Future Games. Really good catch and throw guy. Handles the bat well. Catcher pop time getting at a 2-0. Very accurate throws. He did a great job down at the Junior Future Games behind the plate. And he handles the bat. Right now, physically, he doesn't look like Caltatero or a Brady Rallo at this point. He looks more like the standard freshman or sophomore. He's going to challenge. It would not shock me at all if he challenges for playing time, just because you don't see that many great high school catchers. And I think he's got a chance to be one. I really like the bat-to-ball skills, knows how to play the game. Just a good all-around baseball player.
Well, we could see him. We got our annual Webster Groves Kirkwood game out at Baldwin.
Absolutely.
Never know, man. Never know. The other name that kind of pops off here is Elijah Powell.
I liked Elijah on the mound. That is one where, if you go look beyond some of the numbers, he had a nice round of BP, and he really looks good on the mound, quite honestly. It's that lean, projectable body.
Elijah.
I am sorry. I started talking about Nathan Jackson. I got mixed up.
Because Elijah Powell's
I'm going to start with Nathan Jackson because those were my comments for Nathan, and then I will move on to Elijah. Sorry, those two names were right next to each other, and I was just thinking I'm going to talk about Nathan Jackson. But Nathan, is a two-way guy. did a nice job on the infield and swinging the bat. But he definitely piques, your interest on the mound. It's kind of the 6'2", high-waisted guy, and it's not there yet velocity-wise, but it's right where you'd want a freshman to be, though, too. He's in a good spot there. He's going to be one that you definitely want to keep an eye on over at Vianney. Now, Vianney has a loaded roster. I would expect him to be on one of the underclass teams. But there's a name that I'm certainly filing away and making a note of, and will be aware of, and over the coming years, that will be a one to follow over there at Vianney. Another couple you were going to talk on Elijah Powell,
because he was a catcher, and that's why, because I
catcher.
was following right there.
Yeah, catcher, left-handed hitter out of MICDS, which they had a great Final Four run last year, and also threw the ball pretty well. 207, 2-1 pop times, which is really good for a freshman. That's good for just a high school catcher in general. And catching is one of those interesting positions where you got to have one. You honestly better have two. So you can see, sometimes kids get blocked, like it's really hard. But at the same time, also sometimes a school won't have a catcher in the junior or senior class, and then you'll get a younger guy pulled up by necessity, because it's not like you can just throw a random guy back there. You need a guy that can handle the pitching staff, that can receive, etc. So that always comes down to a program for program thing. So a lot of times you will see a younger catcher making a varsity team, if there's, depending on the path, if that makes sense.
And there, it'll be interesting to see if MICDS, I don't think they may get bumped up. They were a Class 4 school, and so that's interesting with championship points, and things of that nature, how all those things end up working out. But I would love to see them stay at that Class 4 spot, because I think that's where they fit. And, a kid like this may get an opportunity, just because roster size, right?
Right. Yeah, that will be interesting to see. And then the final freshman I wanted to talk on, and we saved him for last because he is a legitimate two-way guy as we lead into kind of talking about some of the arms, is Calvin Stanek, infielder from Chaminade, legitimate two-way guy. Again, like Caltatero and Rallo, it's really impressive watching a kid that age take BP and putting up some of the numbers he's doing. 95 exit velos. That's, again, if he had that as a senior in high school, that would be considered good. So obviously, there's strength in the swing. He's got a big time throwing arm. He was 89 across the diamond. And then on the mound, he's already thrown in the mid 80s. And he's going to be over at Chaminade. So that one will be interesting. As I pour through a lot of the data and whatnot, and obviously we'll wait a couple weeks and see how it turns out. But he's a freshman that might make an impact on a varsity team this year. So Calvin's one to keep an eye on, and he's certainly an exciting young prospect in the Missouri class.
And I had somebody tell me the other day that to keep an eye on Chaminade. They're young, but maybe in the next couple of years, they could be back in that mix in the MCC.
Nice.
So there you go. We shall, and that right there kind of points to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had those teams where, we've talked about, like in the years past, when I remember talking to you about, hey, watch out for Liberty North. They got a ridiculous freshman class. And then when they were sophomores, I was like, hey, look, they got a ton of good young guys, and then they make state 3 years in a row. And we did the same thing with Vianney too. They had that great group of it's the senior class right now, and now when they were freshmen and sophomores, we were talking about them. Hey, they're coming, and now it's kind of their time. Not to get off topic, but so I'll let you make that call on Chaminade. Brian's already said he's Chaminade 3 years from now is going to win the state championship. Just heard him say it.
Well, if why not? What the heck? Oh man. Pitching wise, Stanzik at the top there. Who else stood out for you on the pitching side for these freshmen, Kevin?
Yeah, we touched on a couple of the others already. With Nathan Jackson is going to be an interesting arm, and then Calcaterra, who didn't throw at the event but threw the week before for us. And those are going to be the guys that kind of keep an eye on. And there's some really good arms in that class as well. Keelan Zumwalt is a Kansas City kid. Actually, our top-ranked player. He was over at the Mocan event about a week and a half ago. So there's some really good arms in that freshman class.
Just one that kind of popped off a little bit there. Low 80s. Bo Robbins out of St. Clair seemed to show pretty good there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Bo had a very nice bullpen, and 81. If you see a freshman throwing 78 miles per hour, that kid's going to have a real chance. So anytime you get a freshman that's in the 80s, yeah. But rolling in, the one thing that's cool about an event like this, I really do like seeing the young guys and what a difference 1 year makes to these guys physically and also just from a confidence standpoint. It happened during one of my events. It was during batting practice, and a lot of these freshmen get extremely nervous. So you gotta have them take a step out, get a deep breath. Sometimes you need to get a ball pick, anything to kind of get their mind kind of off of things and recentered, if you will. But a lot of times when you get them back as sophomores, there's a new level of confidence. There's some extra strength, and I was really impressed with the 2027 class, especially the arms that rolled through. We had some arms, and this is the group that we will be selecting for the future games this year. So that's highly encouraging because obviously we want to put a good foot forward when we go represent the state of Missouri down at Lake Point in July.
Just the volume of arms in this 2027 class that is, would you consider elite?
The top end guys were. Now, they're young, and so time will always tell. I don't ever want to get too excited about young guys. There's a long way. I've seen, lots of things happen in both directions, positive and negative. But, one of the super positives to start with would be Carter Martin out of Warrenton, pitcher / shortstop. But we'll talk about him as a pitcher here. What separates Carter right off the bat, you do see some longer, bigger kids that can throw hard. Carter has a real feel for his secondary. Thinking back to when he was younger, he was a junior future game guy with us and performed extremely well, especially on the mound. But he really commands his secondary stuff. He has plus spin on his slider and curveball. He's approaching 3,000 RPM, which is well above normal. And he commands it for strikes. I mentioned he's a shortstop, so it's kind of an athletic body and athletic arm, and he ran it up to 88, kind of hang out 86, 87, touching some 88s. So that is going to be one. And physically, he's not even close to being finished. He's still a kind of a wiry, athletic-looking 6-footer. There's easy going to be 20 pounds of going onto the frame over the next 3 or 4 years. But he is in a great spot right now. Another one that jumped out, and he's one of the wow guys physically, is Ryan Dobratz out of Liberty Wentzville. Kind of looks like a linebacker or maybe a defensive end. 6'4", 225, but put together in a good way. Really strong kid with a big time fastball. Upper 80s, 89. I know for sure or for a fact that he's been in up to 91 before. This is going to be a power arm moving forward to keep an eye on. I don't think he's done growing either. My understanding his dad is 6'8" and his mom is 6'1".
Oh,
So
jeez.
this guy might end up being, pretty big. Not that he isn't already. So that's going to be a power arm to keep an eye on over the next year or two.
And Liberty Wentzville is making that move up into the GAC South, so
they'll need him.
yeah. My goodness, that's a big kid. He was, and we had a chance. He's one of the interviews we did while we were there. Wanted to chat with him. And nice kid, well spoken. Really enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah. And that's the other good thing about this. I love getting to interact with those kids. You don't get to have a 5-minute conversation with them typically, but just little tidbits here and there around their bullpens or BP sessions or grabbing them when you have a down second is fun to kind of get to know the kids a little bit. Another one and another one that's been on the radar for a good while, Cole Chambers. And he's a two-way, so maybe I should save him for the end, but I'll touch on him. He was had another great bullpen out of that 27 class. Really commands the breaking ball, showed a good curveball up to 87, and just a good all-around athlete. Was a starting goalie at the SLU High state champion soccer team. Made a big save in penalty kicks for the state championship. Not that has too much to do with baseball, but it does talk kind of about the overall athleticism. Plays infield, third base, shortstop, gets up on the mound, can be upper 80s. And we'll talk about him when we circle back to the hitting, but is a legitimate bat. He's a legitimate two-way guy. With these young guys, you don't know which way that is kind of going to lead them. He's one that I suspect might kind of hang in there and do both moving forward for a while. So that will be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Another one that had a great bullpen was Max Jones out of Sackman. Sackman's going to be a team to deal with this spring. There is a lot of talent. As I've gone through my winter workouts, they have a nice. They'll be well represented. They have plenty of talent over at Sackman this year, and Max is certainly going to be a big piece of that. Physical right-hander in the upper 80s, topped out at 88. Good breaking ball, throws strikes. Big-bodied kid. Max is going to be one that we'll definitely want to get out and try to see at some point during the spring, and I would expect that he would create an impact as a sophomore on the varsity team this year.
I don't know if we'll be able to or not, but I know we're going to be down at Seckman. We're going to be at their house for Parkway South in April. So hopefully, you never know, man, on a Thursday.
Yeah, it's a crapshoot, right?
Yeah.
A couple other arms I want to touch on from this 27 class, and man, there's
a bunch of them.
One that I really liked was Drew Dirks out of Francis Howell.
Mm-hmm.
Now this one will be interesting because, I mean, we could have a 3-hour show on the talent over at Francis Howell. So you wouldn't expect him to push, Dylan Curtis and Brett Schneider and Eli Skidmore and these guys out of the way as a sophomore. But Drew Dirks is a extremely intriguing left-handed pitcher, 6'4", lefty up to 84, and had a real feel for the breaking ball.
Yeah.
And he's nowhere even close to being a finished product. Like this is,
He was
and
all
that honestly puts him in a good spot because he's going to have a nice, comfortable role, whether that's in the JV program as one of the frontline starters, or if Coach Perkins decides, and they play so many games. Coach Perkins, and like a lot of these good schools in our area, they're not scared to get 5-6 games on a week. So you could see him making some of those weekend starts on a Saturday or Sunday, or a championship game in the Columbia tournament or the Troy tournament or whatnot early. So that will be one to keep an eye on, and one that I was pretty excited about.
Well, they're pretty right hand dominant too. So I mean, you got a lefty like this, it makes for an intriguing bullpen piece. If you need something like that, and he is around the strike zone, Kevin.
Yes, and I don't disagree with you. They are right-handed heavy. He does have a true starter's profile, but to make the varsity team as a sophomore at Howell, you kind of get in where you fit in type thing.
Right. And
A
sometimes
couple others. Yeah, a couple others. Bodie Shennewerk over at Jeff City, who's paired up with Jordan Martin, who, Bodie's a two-way guy, shortstop, pitcher. Took a pretty good jump forward from a year ago on the mound, up to 87. And Bodie's just a good athlete. Jordan Martin is one of the top players in the country. He's going to be heavily in consideration for in the first couple of rounds of the MLB draft. And Jordan plays shortstop, and Jordan also pitches. So Bodie, if Jordan's not pitching, Jordan's probably at short. So Bodie, has bounced around. He plays center field, he plays shortstop, he plays second base, and he can get up on the mound. So he plays all the premium positions in the middle of the diamond, then catcher. So Bodie's one to definitely keep an eye on.
that's not all bad, is it? When you get that much experience playing all those different positions.
No, absolutely. And just kind of speaks to his athleticism. A couple more I wanted to hit on. Man, we could keep going too.
I know, man.
Michael Sin out of Lafayette. Kind of I'm going to say 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", left-hander, basketball player, good athlete, spends a lot of time with basketball, hasn't focused completely on baseball or pitching at this point. He's extremely intriguing. Mid-80s left-hander, long, loose. That is one that, you kind of look at and you're like, man, what is this going to look like in a year or two? This could be pretty special. So that would be one to keep an eye on. And then a name you should recognize, Brian, Wyatt Lippert out of Blair Oaks.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Wyatt. He's wired right. In mid-80s right-hander, physical, strong kid, tough. Wyatt is definitely going to be a huge piece of that Blair Oaks team, which is always super competitive. They're one of my favorites in the state because they always take on all comers. And, I don't even know what class are they class 4 at this time, but they play, they'll play as many class 6 schools as they do 4, it seems like, especially out of conference. I realize they have their conference and region games.
They're in the Columbia tournament again this year. And, so yeah, we had a chance to talk with Coach D'Amelia, and that'll be coming up here soon on our coaches previews. And that team is loaded again, Kevin. And it just, yes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Spoiler alert. They are my preseason number 1 in class 4. So there you go.
Wow. Okay.
Anybody else there?
There's plenty, and like I mentioned, we could go
Yeah,
on
you could. Oh
forever.
my gosh. I'm sure we're missing a
I'm going to
couple.
slide us over to talk about some of the hitters, though,
Yeah.
um, because there was plenty, and we kind of talked about some of those pitcher two-way guys already, and I guess I'll
Mm-hmm.
kind of start off with the kind of doing the same here. Brandon Ott from DeSmet.
Yeah.
He did not pitch at this event. Now I view him as one of our top pitching prospects in the 2027 class. Um, he pitched late into the fall, so his buildup and it makes sense. He's pitched big innings for DeSmet as a freshman. Um, should be one of their top arms, if not the ace, this spring. So he's still building up, getting ready for the high school season. But swung the bat extremely well. Left-handed hitter, uh, first base, maybe even some DH time potentially. With the pitching, but he's a guy that definitely we're going to need to keep an eye on, especially on the mound. But he can swing the bat. That ball jumps out of him. He's got some leverage in the swing. It's a um, long frame. So if he gets the levers going, there's some juice in that bat for sure.
I liked his average at 87.5, his exit velo at 87.5, his, percentage in sweet spot and 42%. That cuz we talk about this a lot. I love the big number. It's nice, you get that. But when you can barrel the baseball consistently, like you said, I think as you said earlier, that translates better to the field, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, couple others here, and again, we could talk all day about this class too.
We're going to have to do
Which is
another show.
well, this is the one we're going to get super familiar with as we head into the future games. Carson Luthauser
Oh
um,
yeah.
is one of the top catchers in the state, regardless of class. And he showed extremely well at the event. Um, Super consistent on the bag from behind the plate with the catcher pop times. He can really throw. He's got arm strength. Um, he's in the mid 1.9s pretty consistently, sub twos, and those are legit. Pop times, it translates to the game. He does it right. He doesn't cheat the pop times during the showcase. Plenty of arm strength there, and a big, strong guy. He's done a good job transforming his body in the weight room this off season, and it shows. He was in the triple digits during BP, and he is a transfer. He will be at Eureka High School
Mm-hmm.
this spring, and Eureka's got a good group. They got a big stable of arms, so they, you got to have a good catcher, and they're fortunate they got one of the best in the state. Um, with Carson, and you pair him up with another guy who was at the event, not in this class, but Craig Ringy,
Mm-hmm.
third baseman, maybe he plays short this year at Eureka. I don't know, but a left side infielder for sure. So who had a very good event as well. And you start pairing those guys up, and then you got Kyle Raig over there as a senior. That's a pretty good. However, they sort that out, but middle of the lineup, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, whatever however they sort that out. But those guys are going to be very competitive this spring with those guys right there.
Well, you'll get a chance to kind of hear that because we did get Coach Draghi on the show, and his previews coming up as well. So there you go, Kevin. You're leading us right into all the coaches' previews there, bud.
I try my best, Brian.
Because I mean, you're right. Eureka and Coach Draghi, they've got they have some youth on the offensive side, but they have those dudes, and Eureka's going to be a handful again. They are going to be tough.
Yes, and it can be. We see this year to year. The team that has a couple big arms, and then they don't quite have the catching situation. That can be a problem for teams, and quite honestly, dangerous at times. So, Eureka's fortunate because they have the big arms and they got a great catcher. Um, Couple others. Man, we could go. Brady Yates is one of my favorite bats in that class.
Yeah.
Out of Springfield, out of Glendale. So teammates with Sebastian Norman, who's one of the top positional player prospects in the state this year. But Brady can really swing the bat, big time juice. I've seen him hit a number of home runs during the summertime. Metric wise, it is good. He performs well. 98 exit velo is nothing to sneeze at, but it translates to the game in a big time way. Big time carry ball. Some guys, hit the ball hard, and then some guys have balls that just carry. He kind of does both. His ball has some natural carry off the bat.
Can I throw a couple guys in here because it's a
Yeah.
team that most people we're not thinking about, but down in South County, Hillsboro, the Partney brothers.
Oh, no, trust me, I was going to get to those boys. Yeah, Max Partney, left-handed hitting third baseman, is one of the top hitters in the class as well. We've known Max and his brother Zach for a good while. Zach has really progressed nicely. They were both at the super sophomore games last year, as was Brady. And Zach in particular has taken some very good strides. Not only metrically, but just played really well last year at the super sophomore games. And then Max is just one of the better hitters in the class. Plays third base and can just flat swing the bat from the left side. So Partney boys, and we mentioned Seckman, when we were talking about Max Jones, and we're mentioning them because there's a lot of players on that roster, a lot of talent.
Who are we finishing up with here in this group, Kevin? Because my gosh.
Well, Dawson Eftink.
That's who I thought you were going to. Jackson High School,
out of
man.
Jackson, yes, and Jackson's one of our favorites. Highly competitive team out of the Cape area. They have made plenty of noise over the past couple of years, and they got a good sophomore here with Eftink. Led the event in terms of exit velo at 102. Dad played over at Central Missouri. Good baseball bloodline there. Dawson is going to definitely challenge to be a contributor this year at that Jackson team, which is always, in the mix, right? So that's a varsity program that is not easy to make as a young guy. So I look forward to seeing how Dawson does this spring.
It was funny, Kevin, because I have Mr. Shane Eames over here waiting to go on the show with Mitch after we're done here. And as soon as we said that name, he goes, nodded his head in agreement.
Dad was a really good hitter. There's a lot of checks in that column there.
Oh, mercy. Just looking at the 28s and 27s, the talent level that we're seeing right now is really pretty amazing.
Yes, man, and we're leaving guys out that I'm not even getting to, like Mylan Bristol is a good runner. He was in our super sophomore games out of Blue Springs South. So there's a Kansas City kid that was over here at the event. Good runner, kind of a top of the order type guy, can make things happen. We already talked about Cole Chambers.
Blake Holra.
I'm sorry. I was going to bring up Luke McAtee because We talked about DeSmet and Ott there for a minute. Luke's another strong catcher in the class and a big physical guy. And it'll be interesting because they have some depth there at the catching position, but he's a guy that should factor in to a lot of teams in a normal situation. But Luke's one of the top catchers in this 27 class.
Well, there's a lot of good catchers in this class because Blake Hallra,
Yes.
Orchard Farm, another kid.
Yep.
This class, there's a lot of top end catchers.
100%, and that's not common. There's some classes where you might get, maybe one or two Division I type catchers in a class. This one appears to have more. We'll see how it plays out.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're getting
one other that I want to hit on because I'm going to feel bad if I can probably keep doing this. But I do love to touch on small town kids.
absolutely.
Gavin Thomason out of Fair Grove is also going to be a big time player. Two-way guy, but Fair Grove, I like him a lot as a positional player. Mid-90s exit velo. Fair Grove is a team for small school that you should have on the radar, Brian, and Gavin would be a big piece of the reason why.
Okay. Sweet. I got to check out and see what class they are because, I want to end this.
You can wait a month and you'll find out.
Because we're out of time here today, and we'll get to the 26. We'll come back and do the 26 class all by itself because I think there's a lot there, and we maybe revisit some of this 27 because I don't think we got to everything here. But there's one kid that stood out to me. We're talking about small schools. We're talking about small towns. I got to bring this up right here. He's a 26 kid, but the kid from Van Buren, Missouri.
Oh, Brady Smith. Yes. That was one of my favorite arms, and I'm glad we're going to save the 26s for a different show because this, it's just going to seem like too much information, or we're going to start leaving guys out. But yeah, Brady Smith, that is going to be a handful down for opponents at Van Buren because, I'm not even sure. Is that class 1, I believe?
Class 2.
Class 2. Yes. I would venture to say Brady will be the best pitcher in Class 2 this year. But we will see. But Brady's electric. And yeah, we need to dive into that 26 class next time.
Absolutely. So let's do this. Let's take just a few more minutes here, Kevin, and look at, we're over here with the hitting, the 27 class pitching wise. We talked about a lot of that stuff. Fielding wise, we get into these guys as far as the fielding part of it as well. Who are kids that are going to stand out on the defensive side? Because the infield velos are all mid-80s. Cole Chambers was 90 on the infield. Gabe Garcia, 86. Cole Harris, 84. These are just big-time arms on the infield.
Yes. There's Cole Chambers would be towards the top of that list. My goodness, we didn't even get to Payne Kent, who is also in the triple digit with the hitting. Man.
Yeah. So we're going to save it. We'll save it. Because
Okay.
we'll have to start with the 27s and finish up with that and then get to the 26. Because there's so many kids here, Kevin. And I'm looking forward to this season coming up because it's going to be huge. I think the talent level that you're going to see in these 27 class, I think you may see some of these kids make an impact on varsity. They're just that good.
Oh, without question, there will be a good number of these sophomores that we've already talked about playing varsity baseball this year.
Oh, man, especially if you're in, some of the smaller schools, class 5. Some of the class 5 schools, have that level, but you start talking about having sophomores at this level, you're creating depth in your baseball team, and that just makes for that much better baseball.
100%. And that's kind of when when you have your program rolling, when you got a good sophomore or two that's in the mix, and gaining that experience. You look at a Zumwalt West, for example, they've had freshmen start for them. And despite being one of the top players, they're not starting the freshmen out of necessity. They have other good players that could, play. It's not they didn't have to have Nolan's system play shortstop as a freshman. They didn't have to have Michael Wolf in the lineup, out of, hey, we just need a body. Those players were just knocked the door down and made the roster type thing. Titus Sissel going back to Howell, Leo Humbert, like those are guys that were just good enough to make a very good team, and that's a special case. And I can also show you that that's a healthy program, and they're legitimately playing the best players, not just a kid because he's a senior. And I love that mindset, quite honestly, is you got to earn your job, and we're going to play the best players. And that's when you have a healthy program, and quite honestly, when you're going to see a successful program, when you create that type of culture.
I love the fact that you brought up Michael Wolf, because there's been a lot of talk, because Brendan Piles over at West now and adding to that team, whatnot. But I'll tell you what, I like Michael Wolf a lot. The kid is, I think he's big time.
Yeah, and a little news for you here. Andon Hyde will be eligible this year at Zumwalt West to transfer. So adding another big piece to that equation over there for West.
And another spoiler alert, that's our opening GAC game of the week. Francis Howell at Fort Zumwalt West. Don't miss it.
It should be all right.
I think it'll be okay. Yeah, we might see a good game. You never know.
Nice.
That is Tuesday, April something. I think it's April 8th. Yep, Tuesday, April 8th, opening week. The GAC just with a bang right in your face, Kevin. So,
love it.
I look forward to it, man. Hey, thanks. Make sure you tune in next week. We'll be finishing this up. So many good players, Kevin. Always fun. Appreciate it, buddy.
Have a good one. This was great.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button down there. Hit the like. That helps the algorithm. We appreciate that. Subscribe. Hit that dinger next to it. It's not a home run, but it's notifications for upcoming episodes just like this. We appreciate it. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, give it to him, Kevin.
Keep throwing strikes.
And hitters, hit them where they ain't. We'll see y'all next time.